us review once again the weaknesses in the American character. First, the average American can't or won't think independently, but is always ready and eager to go along with the group and let the others do his thinking for him. Second, he seems to lack confidence in his ability to solve his own problems. By himself, he is frightened and insecure. He expects others to make living easy for him. Third, he talks a great deal about his concern for others, but basically, he lives only for himself. And fourth, the American is not committed to a definite standard of conduct. He has hazy concepts of right and wrong. In short, he is an opportunist. He will do anything for a price. The decadent capitalist society breeds these weaknesses. We can use them. Upon assuming your positions, you, as instructors of American prisoners, can exploit these weaknesses in order to control them.
Not flattering, certainly. These are communist ideas from actual Chinese documents. Maybe it should be written off as pure tripe. Americans went into Korea to do a job. A nasty, dirty, dangerous job. A job that none of them asked for, but they fully intended to do it. Among them was Dr. William E. Mayer, physician and psychiatrist of the United States Army Medical Corps, who served as a member of the Joint Medical and Intelligence Team, which made a comprehensive study of Americans who returned after nearly 3 years as captives of the Communist Chinese. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Ronald Reagan. I'm speaking to you now not as an actor endeavoring to entertain you, and certainly not as an announcer speaking for a sponsor. I talk as Ronald Reagan, American citizen, to you, American citizen, concerning the Communist Chinese appraisal of our national character. Did they have our number? Was it all enemy tripe? We began to learn the answer when the Communists released back to us the several thousand men they had held for nearly 3 years. What I have to tell you now is Dr. William E. Mayer's own story, as he saw it and as he believes it now can shape our future. The Americans who fought in Korea were a good representative cross-section of healthy American males in the 19 to 24-year age group. The majority could be considered average. They were well-trained and well-armed, and they came from all over America. They fought bravely and well. But as always, too many good men died in battle, and a few were captured. When hordes of Chinese communists surged across the Yalu unexpectedly, many an American soldier awakened one morning in his foxhole, face to face, almost literally, with thousands of heavily armed enemy troops. Because there were men among our troops who had been captured during World War II by the Japanese and the Germans, our soldiers had a clear idea of the degradation and brutality they were certain to face. So you can imagine the surprise when, not very much later, small radios in our own lines picked up the voices of some of our men, men we knew to be prisoners of war, exhorting us in their own normal voices over communist radio stations.
Join us as guests of the Chinese People's Volunteer Army. Fellow Americans, don't go on with this senseless war. Stop being the tools of the rich capitalists who start wars for profit. Join us as guests of the Chinese People's Volunteer Army.
Of course, we knew that something was wrong. In every war in the past, some men have always been able to make their way back to our lines. But this was not happening in Korea. In nearly 3 years of captivity in established POW camps, not a single American prisoner successfully escaped and got back to our hands. And there was something else that concerned and alarmed Dr. Mayer and his fellow researchers: the death rate among the Americans. Out of 7,000 men taken prisoner, more than 3 out of every 10 died in captivity. It was not until nearly 2 years later, nearly 3 years following their capture, when our men were finally returned to us, that we were able to ascertain exactly what had happened. These men, like prisoners from all wars, were studied to learn about enemy treatment of POWs so future soldiers could be better trained. But here also was a chance to see directly into the communist state through the eyes of typical average young Americans, products of our society and its traditions and beliefs. Their beliefs had been severely tested in Korea. A study could tell us important things about our national strength and weaknesses. Those weaknesses, which did seem to appear in the course of over 1,000 POW interviews, are things we need to know about, that more people must be concerned about. Being captured by an enemy is a shocking experience for any soldier in any war. In Korea, this shock was made sharper because no one knew quite what to expect, except possibly the worst. Starvation and brutality, maybe, or torture even. Oriental torture, such as burning bamboo splinters under the fingernails. Then there'd been talk of brainwashing. Wasn't brainwashing a big thing with the Chinese? Maybe they even used narcotics.
Gentlemen, we welcome you to the ranks of the people's democracy. We are happy to have liberated you from the Wall Street warmongers who sent you here for their profit. We have nothing against you, and we want to offer you a fair proposition. All we ask is cooperation and fair play. For you, this war is over, so don't fight us. Sit back, be like others, relax. Make yourselves comfortable like the other men are doing. You have nothing to fear. We want to be your friends. There are no slave camps here, no road gangs. You will not be put to work. We will give you free the best food and shelter and clothing we possibly can. Now, it won't be good by your standards. We are a poor country, but it will be the best thing we've got, and you won't have to work for it. Finally, we will give you the thing we know you really want most, a chance to learn the truth. When the warmongers have made enough money, when they let this senseless slaughter end, we just want you to go home, to your own good homes, and find families, and simply tell them the truth, as you yourselves decide the truth to be.
Well, you've got to admit, this beats burning bamboo splinters under your fingernails. It was almost as irresistible as the deals you hear over the radio. Get it now, don't deny yourself a thing. Sit back, no need to work. Get yours, everybody else is getting theirs. Yes, this was pretty much the way in which our men were greeted by the Chinese, and how their captivity began. In other wars, Americans have always organized together fairly soon after capture. They set up internal controls, escape committees, a military justice system, and groups to care for the sick and wounded. But in Korea, even though many months went by, effective internal organizations didn't develop. Yet during this period, there was no special indoctrination, no magical methods for the control of Americans, nothing except the usual hardships and deprivations of prison camp. Oh yes, once in a great while, there was some mail from home, carefully sorted out, of course. Thus it was that if your wife wrote you every single night for 6 months and told you that she loved you, she waited for you, she prayed for your return, not to worry about her, just take care of yourself and come home. That's the kind of letter you didn't get to see. But finally, when she lets her hair down and tells you that the kids' noses are running and she can't get them in at the dispensary, and the allotment isn't enough anymore, the car's on the fritz, and significantly, she sure wishes she could go out dancing once in a while. This was the one letter you got in your mud hut in North Korea. It might well be your only letter in 6 months. And from Dr. Mayer's own standpoint, as a physician and psychiatrist, it was this period which disturbed him the most. Because it was during this period when most of the men who died. Give-up-itis, they called it, when the weakest simply turned their faces to the wall, covered their heads, and within 48 hours, were dead. If only the boy's family and school and church had helped him grasp and develop the idea of personal responsibility and obligation, had weaned him away from the belief that individual effort was painful and useless. If only he had been taught that he has the ability, even alone, to to meet and solve serious problems, then this cold, terrible reality would not have destroyed him. Most attempts to organize, to establish normal leadership were rejected.
Hey, you guys, wake up. I got a way figured that some of us can make a break and get out of here.
Escape?
Yeah, but we gotta get organized first.
Are you nuts?
I told you I got it figured.
Well, figure some more. You want to spoil things for us? You want to get the Chinese mad at us?
This place is beginning to smell worse than a pigsty. If we don't do something about it and fast, we're going to wind up with the damnedest epidemic of dysentery. Maybe worse.
So?
So what do you say we organize? Round up some shovels?
Why don't you get a shovel and start digging here?
But I'm telling you, we could all die of dysentery.
You heard what the Chinese said. You take care of you, buddy, and I'll take care of me.
And so there were dysentery epidemics, fatal epidemics. It takes tremendous effort, based upon a deep sense of personal responsibility, to survive in captivity and preserve self-respect and self-reliance. Too many men, perhaps because they were products of such a comfortable, secure, often unchallenging society, failed to understand this and suffered needlessly.
Hey, soldier. Soldier. You know better than to drink that rice paddy water, don't you, son? It'll kill you.
Who cares? I'm thirsty.
Well, you won't die from thirst, but you can die from dysentery. Don't drink it.
Look, Doc, you don't give orders no more. You're no officer here. You're just another lousy POW like me, like the rest of us. Now, you take care of you, buddy. I'll look out for me.
In 48 hours, he was dead. You take care of you, buddy. I'll take care of me. And from the Chinese, no torture, no coercion. The Americans were still left mostly on their own as the months dragged on. Alone and without alien influence of any kind. Complete isolation. This was typical of many of the American POW camps in North Korea. No barbed wire, no watchtowers, none of the precautionary measures normally taken to prevent escape. Nothing but the cluster of mud huts that make up a Korean village to provide a miserable shelter for several hundred Americans, with seldom more than a few Chinese soldiers to guard them. But it was after the first few months that we began to see the communist Chinese indoctrination. The application by the Chinese of a finely developed educational program, one that occupied every day, all day, 7 days a week for the great majority of prisoners. It was a classical anti-capitalist, anti-American diatribe of the sort the communists have been publishing for years. Afterward, there were discussions in which every prisoner was forced to participate, but not by the Chinese. Oh, no.
Come on, soldier, get with it. Sum up this lecture for our instructor so we can get some chow.
Then there were the public confessions, where each prisoner was required to stand up and perform an exercise of public self-criticism, confessing to one and all his past sins against society.
Oh, we had several slaves, about 2,000 per acre. Beyond that, we owned most of the land. We drove Cadillacs all over, and there was a yacht for everybody. One for me, one for my daddy, and money was nothing to us.
Not because they believed what they heard or what they said. Nothing of the kind. They simply went along. They did what others expected them to do, even though they knew it was wrong. Why?
There were some things I wasn't too proud of. I haven't mentioned before. Like the time I took your food rations when you were sick. Or the time when I took medicine from you. And I also informed on some guys who were breaking out of Compound 14.
Well, everyone else was doing it. And to be popular, you went along too. If you didn't, well, a guy could become mighty unpopular.
All right, gentlemen, dismissed.
You had a free choice, of course. You could enjoy either popularity or respect.
Rotten
not very many chose respect. Only a few. Respect, it seems, earned its own reward, not from your fellow POWs, but from the Chinese, who always acted promptly.
Poor fellow. What a shame. Obviously, he doesn't place the need of the group above his own selfish purposes. We won't hurt him. We'll take good care of him, just as good as we are taking care of you.
Those heroic soldiers who did try to organize the others for escape or to resist the Chinese were segregated in special, heavily guarded camps for hopeless reactionaries. In this way, divide and conquer. Utter planned isolation of the individual was accomplished by substituting the standards and values of the group for those of the individual. Men who didn't conform, who tried to lead, were denounced as poisonous individualists and segregated as criminals. This is the fundamental device of communism, based on the idea that one man has no significance. He is just a fragment of the mass, the class. Becoming and remaining in favor with the Chinese included informing on fellow prisoners, telling about bad attitudes and reactionary remarks, or infractions of camp rules. But it really didn't mean much, because after all, the man informed upon was never punished, not actually. He had only to confess his crime to a sympathetic camp instructor, write an essay promising never to repeat his crime against society, and sign it. That's all. Now, what harm is there in this? The man informed upon wasn't really furious at the man who'd informed on him. He didn't go back to camp and try to kill him or beat him up. He never felt exactly the same about that fellow again, was careful what he said, and never got close to anyone again. He became more isolated, alone.
Man, it's cold out there. Must be 30 below. Hey, you guys are sticking up this place. Come on, you. All of you, outside. Come on your feet. Out. Come on, outside. Come on. What a smell. Yes, I remember.
Tell me, soldier, did you see the sergeant force those men out of the hut into sub-zero weather?
Yes, sir, we all saw him do it. He killed those guys. I'm willing to testify he did.
Well, that's fine, soldier. Now, what were you doing when this was happening?
Well, nothing. Trying to keep warm with the rest of the guys, I guess.
I know that, but what were you trying to do to stop the sergeant from killing those helpless men?
Well, nothing.
Were you afraid the sergeant would throw you out, too?
Oh, no, sir, I wasn't sick. I wasn't stinking up the place.
Well, why not, then? Why didn't you interfere?
Well, sir, I didn't think it was my place to interfere. It wasn't my job.
Do you know how many Americans were in that hut? 40. 40, whose job it was not to risk his comfort, to get up like a man and stand for something. And here's what makes all this so very hard to believe. Normally, men having faced dangers together tend to align themselves with one another on the basis of rather meaningful and intense emotional alliances. They develop a tie, a close bond. We've seen this in the wake of a tornado or following a tidal wave, as happened in Hawaii. Here were men come home from captivity, having shared a terrible experience, great anxiety and hardships for 2.5 to 3 years. Yet we saw these men come home to us strangers to one another, unwilling or unable to communicate with one another. Not actively hostile, nor angry, not hating each other, but not loving each other at all, not trusting each other even a little. Nor was there any particular desire to enjoy the pleasures of a free world. as, for instance, a pass into Tokyo.
Thanks, Doctor. But I'd just as soon stay right here. I don't feel much like going into town. Thanks anyway.
If not a pass into Tokyo, then how about a phone call home free? Call anyone you like, your wife, your sweetheart, your mother, anyone. Tell them that you're safe, well, and on your way home.
Yeah, I got a wife and family, ma'am, but I don't feel like talking to anyone right now. Thank you.
We said studies of these men could teach us important things about ourselves. What things? Certainly not that they let down their country. On the contrary, many acted with honor and great courage in the face of a strange new enemy who behaved in wholly unexpected ways. Statistics tell only part of the story, that a terrible death toll occurred, that escapes failed, that only a few men resisted so actively that they had to be heavily guarded. The more important lesson reaches far beyond the camps in North Korea. The prisoners' hardships demonstrated what is required of men who would preserve freedom in the face of its enemies. Our freedom has richly blessed us, but freedom is a dangerous and demanding adventure. It has permitted lavish rewards for men's labor, great comfort, security, convenience, and vast opportunity. A seductive combination that obscures the demand freedom makes for responsibility, for honor, for effort, vigilance, and the jealous protection of other men's rights. The communists found some support for their charge that we're passive, uncommitted to a definite system, sometimes opportunistic, self-seeking. But these failings are shared in some degree by all of us, even though you and I are not now living in the misery and hardships of wartime captivity. Our prisoners were part of ourselves. What they did or failed to do reflects our acts, our failings. What must be understood is that these failings can undo freedoms dearly purchased, isolate the individual even as he becomes submerged in the mass, erode our political and economic and social system as effectively as any shooting war. And they can do so even if no communist or other tyrant exists anywhere in the world. The hard test of durability of our traditions and beliefs, so cruelly condensed in Korea POW camps for an unfortunate few, continues today. That test can be failed when men vote uninformed, or don't vote at all, in the polling place or the union hall. When college students can accept cheating as generally done and therefore all right. When men who are sincerely honest in their own eyes can expand an expense account or kick back to the customers. The tests will predictably be failed by children so blessed that they have not been seriously and repeatedly challenged, have been promoted in school, though failing, out of fear that failure will hurt them emotionally, have been spared hard work and spared the certain knowledge that acts bear consequences. A child so blessed in youth is destined to fail in the serious struggles of life, for he has not been forged and tempered by trials and labor and challenges as he grew. Yet freedom, this dangerous adventure, requires for its perpetuation men and women willing to exert great effort, willing to seek unpopular truth, suspicious of easy solutions, able to make informed decisions, and prepared to act on them with courage. Communism is designed to control human beings through coercion, cutting off information, isolate the individual, submerge in the mass, encourage conformity and passive, uncritical acceptance of authority. All this we saw in communist handling of prisoners. Communism has been a singularly successful tyranny so far, as it has engulfed more than a third of mankind. Our men in Korean captivity, like most of the people held in this new tyranny, did not accept communism. But not all of what they heard there was foreign to them, for the groundwork had partly been laid right here at home. In some degree, then, we fail our test in small ways and large ways, when we do to ourselves the very things the communist tries so hard to do with his captive peoples and captive nations. The cheating businessman and the cheating student alike hasten the process. Those who seek more and more relief from government to solve the problems of life, old age, unemployment, guaranteed security, who are willing and eager to have hard decisions made for them by remote authority, they hasten the process. Our enemies are largely within ourselves. Indifference, passiveness, a lack of standards and values about right and wrong, good and bad. Though these things are often excused as universal or even extolled as virtues, broad-mindedness, tolerance, or sophistication, they can be as deadly and destroy us just as surely as any nuclear device or missile or other hardware. They constitute the true fallout, the moral fallout, against which free men must forever give battle if our freedom and its manifold blessings are to endure. The ultimate weapon for this battle is the mind, the heart, the spirit of free men. This is what Dr. Mayer and the men who worked with him think can be learned from the Korean experience. This is a lesson we must learn.